The illusion of corporate invincibility often shatters not with a sophisticated financial audit, but with a single, undeniable physical truth. In the high-stakes financial arena of the 1980s, a decade defined by aggressive growth and dazzling corporate narratives, one company stood out as a beacon of entrepreneurial triumph. It was a spectacular mirage, a towering corporate structure built entirely on a foundation of phantom contracts and fabricated reality. The sheer audacity of this deception would permanently alter how financial institutions evaluate the claims of charismatic founders. At the center of this fabricated empire was Barry Minkow, a teenager who possessed an uncanny ability to project absolute confidence and manipulate the aspirations of those around him. He did not merely start a business, he weaponized the American dream, using his youth and apparent prodigious talent as a shield against skepticism. His company, ZZZZ Best, began as a modest carpet cleaning service operating out of a residential garage. But Minkow's ambitions extended far beyond scrubbing floors. He understood early on that the appearance of success was far more lucrative than the slow, grinding reality of actual business growth. To achieve the exponential growth necessary to captivate Wall Street, Minkow engineered a devastating pivot into what he termed insurance restoration fraud. This concept involved claiming massive, multi-million-dollar contracts to repair commercial buildings damaged by fire, flood, or other disasters. In reality, these colossal projects simply did not exist. The entire operation was a meticulously crafted fiction, designed to generate the illusion of massive, rapidly expanding revenue streams that would make the company irresistible to investors and lenders alike. The financial ecosystem of the era was uniquely vulnerable to this specific brand of audacious deception. Deregulation and a fervent hunger for the next major market disruptor created an environment where due diligence was often sacrificed at the altar of rapid returns. Financial professionals, blinded by the halo effect surrounding the teenage prodigy, failed to ask the most fundamental questions about the underlying reality of the business. The desperation to be part of a winning narrative overrode the basic principles of risk assessment and independent verification. The mechanics of the deception required a staggering level of logistical coordination to maintain the facade. The company generated mountains of forged documents, complete with fake letterheads, fabricated inspection reports, and meticulously detailed, yet entirely fictional, billing invoices. They even established dummy corporations to act as the supposed clients and insurance adjusters, creating a closed loop of verification where every inquiry led back to a voice controlled by the orchestrators of the scam. This elaborate charade did not operate in a vacuum. It was fueled by the relentless pressure to maintain the illusion of exponential growth. As the company prepared for a massive public offering, the need for capital became insatiable. The operation had mutated into a classic Ponzi scheme, a fraudulent investing scam promising high rates of return with little risk to investors. Instead of generating legitimate profit from actual restoration work, the orchestrators used the influx of new investor capital to pay off early lenders and fund the exorbitant costs of maintaining the deception. The human toll of this financial fabrication extended far beyond the balance sheets of institutional investors. Ordinary individuals, captivated by the glowing media profiles and the seemingly unstoppable upward trajectory of the stock price, poured their life savings into the mirage. They were victims of a sophisticated psychological manipulation, trapped by the fear of missing out on a generational wealth-building opportunity. The social proof provided by prestigious accounting firms and enthusiastic stockbrokers created a false sense of security that proved utterly devastating. The initial cracks in the facade did not originate from the high-powered offices of Wall Street, but from the gritty reality of on-the-ground observation. A handful of skeptical individuals began to notice glaring discrepancies between the company's astronomical financial claims and the physical reality of their operation. The sheer volume of claimed restoration jobs would have required a massive fleet of trucks, thousands of employees, and a logistical footprint that was entirely absent from the company's actual operations. The turning point arrived when an independent insurance investigator started pulling at the loose threads of the fabricated contracts. This investigator, trained to look for the physical evidence of damage and repair, found nothing but empty promises and fabricated paperwork. When attempting to locate the sites of the supposed multi-million-dollar restoration projects, the addresses led to empty lots, unrelated businesses, or buildings that had never suffered any damage whatsoever. The physical reality simply refused to align with the financial fiction. In a desperate bid to maintain the illusion as scrutiny intensified, the orchestrators staged an incredibly elaborate piece of corporate theater. They rented a partially constructed massive office building in Sacramento and transformed it into a fake job site specifically for a tour by their auditors. They hired actors to play construction workers, plastered the walls with fake corporate logos, and orchestrated a meticulously choreographed walkthrough designed to provide the physical proof the auditors were demanding. The psychological pressure required to execute such a brazen deception was immense, both on the orchestrator and the accomplices drawn into the web. The founder utilized a potent mix of financial incentives, intimidation, and emotional manipulation to ensure the silence of those who knew the truth. This toxic internal culture created a fragile alliance built on mutual complicity and the terrifying realization that if the house of cards collapsed, they would all face catastrophic consequences. Despite the elaborate staging, the relentless pressure from persistent journalists and skeptical investigators continued to mount. Investigative reporters began digging into the founder's past, uncovering a history of credit card fraud and questionable business practices that had been conveniently ignored during the company's meteoric rise. The paper trail, once thought to be an impenetrable fortress of forged documents, began to reveal its inconsistencies under the harsh light of sustained, objective scrutiny. The cascade of revelations eventually reached a critical mass, triggering a catastrophic collapse of the entire enterprise. As the undeniable truth about the fake insurance jobs became public knowledge, the stock price plummeted with breathtaking speed, evaporating hundreds of millions of dollars in market capitalization in a matter of days. The once celebrated corporate headquarters was raided by federal authorities, and the carefully constructed illusion shattered into 1,000 pieces of damning evidence. The aftermath of the collapse exposed a profound failure of the regulatory and auditing systems that were supposed to protect investors. The prestigious accounting firms that had signed off on the company's financial statements were forced to confront the reality that they had been comprehensively duped by a teenager and a team of accomplices. The reliance on paper verification over physical inspection had proven to be a fatal flaw in the auditing process, highlighting a systemic vulnerability that extended far beyond this single case. In the wake of this spectacular failure, the financial industry was forced to implement significant changes to its due diligence procedures. Auditing standards were revised to require far more rigorous verification of physical assets and independent confirmation of major contracts. The era of accepting management's representations at face value was officially over, replaced by a new mandate for professional skepticism and exhaustive, independent verification of all material claims. The legacy of Barry Minkow and the spectacular rise and fall of ZZZZ remains one of the most compelling cautionary tales in modern financial history. It serves as a stark reminder of the intoxicating power of a compelling narrative and the profound dangers of unchecked ambition. The case fundamentally altered the perception of the boy wonder entrepreneur, demonstrating that youth and charisma are not substitutes for integrity and verifiable financial reality. The enduring lesson of this massive fraud lies in its stark illumination of human vulnerability to social proof and authority bias. When prestigious institutions and influential individuals endorse a narrative, the collective critical thinking of the market often shuts down. Investors surrendered their skepticism to the perceived wisdom of the crowd, assuming that someone else had already done the difficult work of verifying the underlying reality of the business. While the specific tactics of the 1980s may seem antiquated, the underlying psychological manipulation remains highly relevant in the contemporary digital landscape. Today's sophisticated frauds often utilize complex technological facades to create the same illusion of massive scale and rapid growth that fueled the carpet cleaning mirage. The tools of deception have evolved, but the fundamental exploitation of trust, greed, and the fear of missing out remains entirely unchanged. The challenge of verifying reality has only intensified in an era where digital assets and intangible services dominate the economic landscape. If auditors could be fooled by fake buildings and forged invoices in the physical world, the potential for deception in the realm of decentralized finance and complex digital ecosystems is exponentially greater. The necessity for rigorous, independent verification is more critical now than ever before. The heroes of this story were not the highly paid financial analysts or the prestigious auditors, but the relentless skeptics who refused to accept the official narrative. The persistent journalists and the diligent insurance investigator demonstrated the vital importance of asking uncomfortable questions and demanding verifiable proof. Their refusal to be intimidated by the company's apparent success ultimately dismantled a fraud that had fooled the highest echelons of the financial establishment. The mechanics of the fake job site in Sacramento stand as a masterclass in the art of the con. It required a deep understanding of what the auditors expected to see and a willingness to manufacture that exact reality, regardless of the cost or the risk. This audacious maneuver highlights the extreme lengths to which perpetrators of massive frauds will go to protect their illusion, transforming a financial crime into an elaborate theatrical production. For the individuals who lost their life savings in the collapse, the devastation was absolute and irreversible. The realization that their wealth had been tied to a complete fabrication caused profound psychological trauma, shattering their trust in the financial system and their own judgment. The fallout extended to the employees of the legitimate carpet cleaning operation, who suddenly found themselves unemployed and tainted by association with one of the most notorious frauds of the decade. The defense against such elaborate deceptions requires a fundamental shift in how investors and institutions approach due diligence. The focus must move beyond the analysis of financial statements and compelling narratives to the rigorous verification of underlying reality. The demand for independent third-party confirmation of major assets, contracts, and revenue streams is the only reliable bulwark against the sophisticated illusions crafted by modern fraudsters. The cultural impact of the ZZZ best collapse extended far beyond the financial pages, seeping into the broader consciousness as a symbol of the excesses of the 1980s. It became a cultural touchstone, illustrating the dangers of a society that prioritizes the appearance of success over the substance of actual achievement. The story of the teenage fraudster captured the public imagination, serving as a dark mirror reflecting the collective obsession with rapid, effortless wealth. The enduring fascination with this case stems from the chilling realization that the deception was so simple in its conception, yet so devastating in its execution. It reveals the terrifying fragility of a financial system built on trust and the ease with which that trust can be weaponized by a charismatic individual with a compelling story. The most dangerous frauds are not always the most mathematically complex. They are often the ones that most perfectly exploit our deepest psychological vulnerabilities. As the final legal proceedings concluded, the true scale of the devastation was laid bare. A staggering $200 million in market value had been entirely fabricated, a testament to the devastating power of a well-crafted lie. The prison sentences handed down served as a stark warning, but the most enduring punishment was the total destruction of the illusion, leaving behind only the wreckage of broken lives and shattered trust. The phantom contracts and fake restoration jobs of that era serve as a permanent reminder that in the world of high finance, skepticism is not merely a virtue, it is an absolute necessity for survival. The shadows of deception will always seek new forms, requiring constant vigilance and an unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth behind the facade. News Stories Weekly. Stay one step ahead of the fraud. Subscribe.